Hi, I'm Gary Klassen for Akeda Tools. Thank you for your interest in the incredible Akeda dovetail jig. Today's demanding woodworker looks for certain qualities in a tool before they purchase. First, that tool must be manufactured with quality in mind to give a lifetime of service. Second, that tool must be versatile. Its design must allow the user to complete more than one task within that tool's category. Third, the tool must produce quality results. And fourth, and sometimes most important, the tool must be easy and quick to set up and use. The Akeda Jig excels at all these qualities and gives the serious woodworker extra features that no other jig can offer. By the end of this video, you will understand what makes the Akeda Jig very different and realize the benefits of the tool's unique features and operating characteristics. Unlike many jigs that can only create one or two joints, the Akeda Jig can create half-line dovetails, through dovetails, and box joints. But in addition, can create all three joints equally spaced or variably spaced. The Akeda Jig can also produce end-on-end joints, sliding dovetails, and a wide variety of decorative joints. There are three very unique features to the Akeda Jig that make it stand out in the crowded world of dovetail jigs. First of all, the Akeda Jig is very easy to set up and use because the tool requires absolutely no adjustment. There are no stops to adjust, no offsets, and no template position adjustments. You are probably wondering how you can create flawless joinery without making any adjustments to the tool. But I will show you how this is achieved in just a moment. Secondly, the Akeda Jig is the only benchtop dovetail jig that fully supports the router front and back. You will no longer have to balance the router on less than half the router base as you make the cut. In addition, the Akeda features the only built-in dust collection on the market. When creating joints, there is an enormous amount of waste that is created with any method. Because of the unique construction of the Akeda Jig, this waste is removed very efficiently, allowing a cleaner environment and an unobstructed view of the workpiece. In order to create flawless joinery, the router bit must be guided very accurately. The Akeda's unique system of snap-in carbon fiber guide fingers and precision guide bushing achieves this needed repeatability with an amazing tolerance of 0.002 of an inch. The guide fingers are inserted into the rear guide rail in one of two positions. First, the layout position, which is used to visually lay out the joint, and the cut position, which locks the guide finger in place for the cut. If you look closely at the rear guide rail, you will notice incremental openings. These alignment notches align with two locating tabs on each guide finger. The benefit to this incremental positioning is repeatability. We can install any guide finger in the guide rail, mark its location, safely remove that guide finger, and put the opposing guide finger in the exact same position with incredible accuracy. It is impossible to mislocate a guide finger because of the 1/8 inch increment. Either the guide finger is perfect, or it is 1/8 of an inch away from its target location. There is no in between. Now, follow along while I lay out a through dovetail from start to finish. The only other item that I will use other than the jig and the router is a pencil to record my layout. Although we can lay out any joint with pins or tails first, on this joint I will lay out tails first. The first guide finger is inserted into the guide rail in the cut position and always one increment to the inside of the reference mark stamped into the guide rail. We install it in that location to prevent the pin from being too thin. In addition, we can install the first guide finger in the cut position because it will never be moved. Now we can install a board into the vertical clamp, making sure that the board is up against the fixed stop and up tight against the first guide finger. This locates the board horizontally and vertically. The Akeda Jig has two parallel steel clamp bars, both horizontal and vertical. The vertical clamp bar has two positions, a through dovetail and box joint position, and a half blind and sliding dovetail position. In addition, the jig has left hand and right hand stops. You can use either stop or in some cases both. Note that the clamp bars operate one-handed but can be used either left or right-handed. Now we can add the second guide finger. Simply duplicate the position of the first guide finger on the other side of the board. Because of the incremental guide rail, the correct position will be clear. At this point, we have many options. You could start cutting to create one large tail, or you could create an equally spaced joint. In addition, you can create any number of variably spaced joints. Let's add two guide fingers to create one of the many asymmetrical patterns. Now, before we go on, we need to record this layout. This is done by making a pencil line on the pencil shelf of the guide rail next to the index mark on the guide finger. Now the layout is complete. This very simple layout procedure is used for all three joints. You just witnessed the entire layout procedure for the Akeda dovetail jig. Remember, there are two positions to the guide fingers, and at this point you should remove the board and ensure that all the guide fingers are in their cut position. Then you can reinstall the board. We will use a dovetail bit to cut the tails. Here's a quick and easy procedure to set the depth of cut. Install a board into the horizontal clamp of the same thickness as the workpiece. Install the bit into the router and set the router on the guide rails. Now simply adjust the bit so that the tip of the bit is even with the bottom edge of that board. Now we can make our cut. Remember that the guide bushing accurately follows the guide finger, so the goal is simply go in and out of the guide fingers with the router. Notice that on this layout I have a large opening where there is no guide finger. Simply do not enter this area. As you can see, you can create beautiful joints with the Akeda Jig without spending hours and hours thumbing through a manual and making adjustments. The quality of the tool will be obvious when you pick it up for the first time. The tool weighs 27 pounds and is constructed of steel, aluminum, and brass. And some more good news, the Akeda Jig is pre-assembled. This truly makes the Akeda Jig the plug-and-play dovetail jig. Your dealer can explain the Akeda packages that are available and recommend accessories to fit your needs. For more information, visit our website. Have fun, play safe.